Rahim. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. Every praise to Allah, Lord of the worlds, the most beneficent, most merciful. Master of the day of judgment, I serve only you. I beseech your help in everything that I do. Keep me on the straight path, the path that is true, the path of those who have gained favors by you, not the path of those who have earned your wrath, nor those who deviated from your guided path. Surah Ikhlas. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, most merciful. Say Allah is, the singular numeral. There's nothing but Allah we need in this world. He begets not, nor begotten is He. Allah is the only OG. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul hu Allahu ahad. Allahu samad. Lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, most merciful. Say Allah is, the singular numeral. There is nothing but Allah we need in this world. He begets not, nor begotten is He. Allah is the only OG. May Allah send blessings on Muhammad's family. May He quickly return my living Imam to me. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa jal. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Muhammad wa jal farjum. So today's plan, yesterday we ended by 8:17. I think we should end around 8:17 and 8:20 again. Inshallah, the last 10 minutes will be Masaib. Brother Hassan is here. Dr. Musawi is here. If anyone, it's very interesting to talk to him about science in Islam. I got a little taste of it on the way in. And I'm saying this because this is Al Imami Educational Center. Learning about Islam from a doctor of physics can blow your mind. As creatures on earth, that's what we crave, is nearness to Allah, and that's obtained from understanding that you can begin to understand His greatness. So if anyone has any time, and inshallah he'll be here, maybe think of something to ask him in regards to science and physics, and maybe inshallah he can continue his topic. Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat. Oh my Lord, you are the creator of everything created. Everything is subject to your plan. Nothing ever deviated. You are larger than the universe. You are the last. You are the first. You were there in the beginning before everything, before creation of the concept of nothing. You are just. You are loving. You decided where to place the planet, 1 mile closer, farther from the sun, and there would be no water to drink, and we would never understand it. Everything you created in pairs. You are the only thing that is one. Nothing can compare. Not only are you the most powerful, but you're the most fair. Nothing else can be so far from us, yet the most near. Oh Allah, bring comfort to everyone in despair. Keep us on the path to heaven. You are forgiving. You are the one who hears our prayers. Send your blessings on Muhammad, and through these blessings, give success to Muslims everywhere. Please hasten the reappearance of our Imam without a moment to spare. Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat. Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa jal farjum. We have a couple presenters from the ladies, and Ali Jawad has a poem. I think we'll start with that. Sister Sagina, do you have the mic? Turn it on. Right. Bismillah.
You are an example of someone in Islam who's always loved and stood by the Imam. You are the Queen of Karbala, Bibi Zainab is her name. You died in Damascus, the sister of Hussein. You saved Imamath, you saved Islam, and you brought us our fourth Imam. You've seen so much and been through even more, from losing your mother and your brothers to watching them kill your sons. You stayed strong and carried the word of Islam from Karbala to Sham. We are here for you, Bibi Zainab alayhi salam. We are finishing your message of spreading Islam.
I have often wondered what it is that gives our Shia brethren such unshakable resilience on battlefields, in exile under sanctions and siege, and systematic suppression. And the answer that came to my mind is this: they have made peace with grief. For over 1,300 years, they haven't just remembered Karbala, and they have internalized it. They carry it in their rituals, their psyche, and their silences. And in doing so, they have transformed grief into a form of endurance and shield that no empire has been able to crack. I was young when I first sat through a majlis, not fully understanding the rhythm of the lament, the slow weeping of the crowd, or why adults would strike their chests for a man who has been martyred centuries ago in a desert far away. But over time I understood. Hussein alayhi salam was not mourned for dying, he was mourned for refusing to bow, for choosing dignity over survival, for standing alone when every worldly logic would have advised him to stay silent. And so every year, Shias all over the world gather not to revisit trauma, but to reaffirm the truth. They don't cry because they are weak, they cry because they are remember, and because remembrance is the first form of resistance. Across history, they have lived in the shadows of empires, often distrusted, hunted, and often silenced. From Parchiner to Quetta to Baghdad to Yemen, wherever power turned brutal, the Shia were marked for their stubborn instance on moral clarity. And yet they remained. They built cultures of poetry and protest, of pain and perseverance. They turned grief into an inheritance, not of hopelessness, but of meaning. This is the reminder that loss is not the end of the story. In fact, for Shia Muslims, it's the beginning. So when people ask, how do they still rise after being betrayed, bombed, and exiled and erased, I think back to Karbala. What can you take from the people who have already buried their dead with their own hands and still whisper, Labaik Ya Hussein? What do you threaten them with? Death? They have already walked that path century after century, not with pride, but with a quiet, unwavering dignity. In a world that worships power and mocks sacrifice, they still follow a man who chooses to die thirsty so the future can drink from the well of truth. And maybe that's why they remain unbending, because their faith is not built on conquest, it's built on conscience. Because they've inherited not palaces, but a principle, that even in loss, one must never kneel. That is why, whether they stand before kings or tanks, empires or sanctions, the lovers of the Ahlul Bayt will not be moved. They are not strangers to grief, they are its students and its torchbearers. Salawat.
Next up, Alijuan. Allah.
Imam Hussein, on Karbala land, Imam Hussein said to his companions, "You are the best friends anyone had, better than my grandfathers and better than my dad. You love Islam and we've gone to. You give your life for Bibi Fatima. Hussein, we love you too. Even though we're not on Karbala land, on Karbala's plain, Labaik Ya Hussein, Labaik Ya Hussein."
Another loud salawat, please. Muhammad. Please, another loud salawat for brother Hassan, who's going to come in. Talk to the Karbala.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. All praise be to Allah. I begin with the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. We ask that He sends His peace and blessings upon Muhammad and his pure family. Whatever good I say is from Allah's guidance through His final prophet and the Ahlul Bayt, and whatever I say that is wrong is or mistaken is from my own deficiency, and I ask Allah's forgiveness for it. As we continue with these short speeches, I will continue to frame them with a simple question that someone new to this tragedy might ask. First night was, why do we mourn and commemorate this after 1400 years? The answer was connected to the intention of Imam Hussein. Last night the question was, why did Imam bring his family? We connected the answer to the events of Mubahala. I hope if any of you had any of these questions, inshallah, I provided a glimpse into the possible answers. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. If the religion of Muhammad will not survive unless I die, then, O swords, come and take me. They say ignorance is blindness. But what if the truth is staring you right in the face and you still choose to turn away? Tonight, I asked the question, did the enemies know who they were facing in Karbala? Was it just a rebel on a desert plain? Or was it the last echo of prophethood the beating heart of Islam. The sun had not yet set on the 10th, but by tonight, the third night of Muharram, they had already begun to surround him, row upon row, sword upon sword, thousands standing against one family. They weren't strangers. Many of them had prayed behind his grandfather. Some had heard the Prophet say, Hussein is from me, and I am from Hussein. And yet they came. He mounted his horse. He rode toward them calmly, with dignity, and he called out across the battlefield, not with anger, but with a plea that shook the heavens. Don't you know who I am? Am I not the son of your prophet's daughter? A silence fell. He was not a stranger to them. He was the child who had once sat on the prophet's shoulders. He was the boy that the prophet would stop his sermons for. The one angel Jibril would descend beside. So yes, they knew. They knew it was Hussein. They knew he was the son of Zahra, the blood of Ali, the light of Muhammad. But knowledge means nothing if the heart is diseased. They knew, but their loyalty was not to truth. It was to position, to fear, to dunya. And so they turned their backs on the very face of Islam. We often wonder, how could they raise a sword to Hussein? But ask yourself, do we not do the same when we betray his path? When we abandon justice for comfort or stay silent in the face of oppression? Are we not part of the crowd that ignored his call? Truth is not just something to admire, it is something to stand with, to suffer for. And if we hesitate, delay, excuse, we may know Hussein, but still fail him. They thought they had cornered him, surrounded him, outnumbered him. But you cannot trap a soul that walks with Allah. Their swords could pierce his flesh, but not his purpose. Their spears could strike his body, but not shake his stand. Because Hussein was not just resisting them, he was representing us. They stood with armies, he stood with Allah. That is why they thought they killed his body. Even though they killed his body, they could never touch his light. And today, we wait another who is known, but not yet properly recognized. Imam al-Mahdi, may Allah hasten his reappearance. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. Imam al-Mahdi is not a stranger to us. We say his name. We wear black for his grandfather. But when he comes, will we be ready? Or will we be like the ones in Karbala, familiar with who he is, but too attached to our world to stand beside him? So tonight, as we weep for the man they knew, but still betrayed, let us promise to never be among those who knew, but did not follow. Labbaika ya Hussein, labbaika ya Mahdi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad.
Please allow salawat for Dr. Musawi. Allah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyid al-Mursaleen Muhammad wa ala ali baytihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yesterday we mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose the human being and it chose the best thing for the human being, and we said that was the mind. And in Arabic the word is aql. The word mind in English isn't exactly equivalent to aql in Arabic, but it's the closest thing that can carry the meaning of aql. So today I want to, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expect us to make use of our aql the most. Those who make use of their aql and to grow their aql, the end result is Jannah. And there's a hadith from Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam that says, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Those of a great aql will have great religion, and those that have a great religion will go to Jannah. So you cannot separate the two. If you are of wisdom, if you are of good judgment, if you are wise, if you are sound in the mind, you're going to choose the way to Jannah. Otherwise, we know what the other way is. So today I'm going to do two things. Number one, I want to encourage every Muslim to educate himself or herself by reading the books that carry the hadith of Ali Muhammad. And one of them, and it's one of the famous books that carry that, is Kitab al-Kafi. It's 4 volumes. Most of it, a lot of it is self-evident and doubtless. Some hadith in it could be injected in it and it's not from Ahlul Bayt, but most of it is from Ahlul Bayt. So I'm not saying that everything in this book is absolutely correct, but anything that we can verify from Ahlul Bayt, it is correct and it has a great knowledge. So I encourage every Muslim to read Kitab al-Kafi or Usul al-Kafi. I'm in the very beginning of the book. The author mentions that a book is divided into many volumes, and in each volume there are many sections. The first section is the section of aql. He mentions the hadith of Ahlul Bayt about aql, and I'm going to share some of it with you tonight, inshallah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So I'm not going to mention all the references. I'm just going to mention the final reference, which means the Imam who said that. I don't want to mention the people that refer that to the Imam. So from Imam Musa al-Qazim alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He says, when Allah created the mind, I'm going to use the word mind for aql, Allah spoke to it. And he said, come close. What does come close mean? Aql doesn't walk. Okay, it's not going to move. Aql doesn't do that. Aql movement, mental movement, is when you get closer to the reality, that's forward movement. When you get close to the truth, when you're in your thinking, when you are thinking appropriately, when you are using your mind correctly, following the mindful rules, the correct rules, you're gonna get closer to the reality of things. So Allah is still in the aql, come close. It means come, move forward in thinking, so you can conclude good conclusions, make correct conclusions. Come forward, so aql came forward, which means the aql produced good results. And Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And then and he ordered the aql also to move backward, meaning aql can also, if not used correctly, can be abused. People can use their mind to deceive others. They are using their mind to deceive others. That's walking backward. That's a movement backward. That's moving away from the reality. And aql was able to do that too. So aql can take you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and if it's not used correctly, can move you away from Allah. Yeah. So then Allah speaks to the aql and says, I swear by my majesty and my greatness, I did not create anything more beloved to me than you. وَلَا أَكْمَلْتُكَ إِلَّا فِي مَنْ أُحِبْ. And I will not make you complete except in those who I love. The more Allah loves you, the more aql He gives you. The better aql He gives you, the more perfect aql He gives you. أَمَا إِنِّي إِيَّاكَ آمُرُ. When I make a command to the human being, I'm not commanding the arms and the legs and the ears and the mouth and the eyes. I'm commanding the mind. Because everything has to be under the control of the mind. It is you who I order, and it is you who I ask you to prevent something or refrain from something. So, and because of that, it is you who I reward, and it is you who I punish. So the punishment is for aql, and because the skin is not going to understand punishment, it's the aql is going to understand the punishment. And the reward is also for aql. It's the aql that's going to understand that you are being honored by Allah. It's not your eyes and legs and the skin. It's your aql that's going to understand that Allah loves you. Okay? So it's with you that I reward, and it is with you that I punish. That's one of the hadith. And there are many of these hadith that are similar to that, so I'm going to avoid that. I hope you will take some time and read through, but I'm going to go to a section where Allah, when Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, or the Imam, is actually describing the facilities of aql, the things that enhance aql. Because aql can grow, and we are supposed to grow our aql. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. So, in this hadith, I'm not going to mention everything. I'm going to go straight to the point. The facilities of aql, the things that enhance aql. What things you do that will enhance the power of your mind. Doing righteous things. Al-khair. Khair means goodness. And that is the main, choosing to do the good things. So you have an option to do one way or another. When you choose to do the right thing, that's the best help, the best aid for your aql. Now you are not going against your aql, you are enhancing your aql. Every time you do the right thing, you are enhancing your aql. So the word for it, al-khair means righteousness, good things, doing the good things, and it is the best. Wazir in Arabic is like prime minister. Okay, prime minister of aql. So the righteousness is the prime minister of aql, is the main helper, the main aid for aql. And the opposite of that is choosing evil. And that's the worst enemy of aql. When you move toward evil, you are destroying your aql. And doing the evil things is the wazir of jahl, ignorance. That's retarding your mind. Al-iman is also an aid for aql. When you believe in good things, that enhances your aql, because you are doing the right thing. And the opposite of that is kufr. When you agree with true things, because sometimes you are subject to an event and you are biased and you support the wrong side, knowing what is the right side is. And that's will destroy your aql. So when you choose the right path, when you know it, and not support the bad side, that's also a supportive act for aql. Being hopeful during hard time will also enhance your aql. Being fair when you make a judgment enhances your aql, and the opposite of that is being unfair, and that enhances ignorance. Being content with what Allah have decreed for you, being content with what Allah had given you, that enhances your aql. And if you are upset or unhappy or unpleased with what Allah have decreed for you, that diminishes your aql. When you appreciate what Allah gave you, that enhances your aql. Ash-shukr. وَضِدَّهُ, and the opposite of that is being unappreciative. You don't like what Allah had decided for you. That diminishes your aql. At-tama, when you go after things that are worthless, but for some reason you think they're gonna give you some value, but that's not real value. For example, some people, let me give you an example. Some people want to build a house, and then they start looking at the neighbors and they want to say, I'm gonna build the biggest house. Or they want to buy a car. I want to buy the most beautiful car. Or they want to do anything. They are going to compare what they are going to do to others and work so much harder to do that. That's something that's going to diminish your aql. That's called tama'. And the opposite of that is when you care less about these things, because they are not, at the end, they are meaningless. Another one that supports aql is depending on Allah. Once you depend on Allah in your actions, that enhances your aql. And when you become greedy, because you are afraid that Allah is not going to help you, afraid, if I gave this poor man $10 and I only have 20, for example, and I'm afraid to give him, so I'm going to give him or very little or nothing, that's hers, that diminishes your aql. That shows that you don't really fully depend on Allah. Another one is knowledge. Knowledge is the main feed of aql. Without knowledge, you cannot have true aql. Knowledge will, the more you know, the better judgment you can make, the better choices you can make. Knowledge is the feed of aql. Everything needs something. Then one of the things that you need to gain for your aql to grow is knowledge. And the opposite of that is ignorance. And the more ignorant you are about something, the less mindful thoughts you can produce. Understanding. When you look at something, try to understand it. If you just follow the crowd without understanding, you diminish your aql. The opposite of that is foolness. Acting fool is exactly the opposite of acting thoughtful. Al-iffa. And the opposite of that is at-tahattuq. Iffa means it has many degrees. The least degree of iffa, it's very hard to find an exact word that's equal to iffa in English, literally. So I have to move the mind toward the meaning of iffa. Iffa is, I give you examples of that so you can figure out what iffa is. For example, you are hungry and you are waiting in line, and you find people pushing their way ahead of you. You release yourself, like you relax and let them go ahead of you instead of, oh, guy, you came next, so you stand behind me. So you even though you're hungry like everybody else, you self-preserve. Preserving your dignity is one level of iffa. Preserving your dignity. Say you have some faults in you. You like things that Allah doesn't really appreciate for you. So at least you don't act proud of that. You feel that you are ashamed of having these things that you like when Allah doesn't like. So you don't act proud of bad things. Okay, the opposite of iffa is acting proud of bad things, and that will diminish your aql. So iffa will increase your aql. The opposite of iffa, which means you are proud of bad things, will decrease your aql. Al-rifq, meaning when you are lenient. Leniency enhances your aql. The opposite of that, when you get mad very quickly, that diminishes your aql. Hilm. Hilm means acting with wisdom. Like you are patiently working things under pressure. That's hilm. You're not getting angry, you're not getting mad, you're not getting, agitated, and you're just being calmly doing the right thing when it could be nerve-breaking things. You're still calm and doing the right thing calmly. That enhances your aql. Doing it the other way, the awkward way, diminishes your aql. As-samt, speaking very little or not speaking. Samt, silence, increases your aql, because you cannot be thinking and speaking at the same time. Like, you can be thinking a little bit, but deep thinking requires quietness, requires silence. And deep thinking will enhance your aql. While talking a lot diminishes your aql. Al-hadar, when you say things that are not necessarily needed to be said, that diminishes your aql. When you submit to the truth, increases your aql. When you act humble, increases your aql. When you act proud, diminishes your aql. Patience increases your aql. Being impatient reduces your aql. Forgiveness increases your aql. Revenge decreases your aql. Remembering good things, remembering Allah, remembering Ahlul Bayt, remembering Quran, remembering Akhirah increases your aql. When you ignore these things, when you forget Allah, when you forget Ahlul Bayt, when you forget the objective of you, that diminishes your aql. When you act with love and care toward others, that increases your aql. When you, and the opposite decreases your aql. When you are honest and sincere, increases your aql. Lying decreases your aql. Standing with the truth increases your aql. Standing with the wrong side decreases your aql. Amana means when you are loyal, when you can be trusted, increases your aql. When you act against that, when you do something like when you betrayal reduces your aql. Shahama, when you act with dignity, when you act, when your actions show that you have nobleness in you, increases your aql. The opposite decreases your aql. Knowledge again, but in a different way. Like there is knowledge, thoughtful, theoretical knowledge, and there is knowledge from experience. There is the word ilm, which is theoretical knowledge, and there is ma'rifah, practical knowledge. Practical knowledge also increases your aql. And when you act gentle with others, when it's called mudarat, like somebody is doing something awkward and you don't come to them in an awkward way and try to stop them right away. You know, you are acting with them in a lenient way, and you are approaching the wrong action with patience, and you are approaching them in a gentle way. That's called mudarat. You are not, coming to stop them by force. You're gonna try to correct things the easiest way, the most simple way. That will increase your aql. When you keep a secret, somebody trusted you with a secret, and you keep it, that will enhance your aql tremendously. Tremendously. While if you give out the secret, diminishes your aql. When you join your relatives by help, silat al-rahm, when you help those who are in need, will increase your aql. When you don't, will decrease your aql. Sawm, even the physical sawm, when you don't eat and drink for a while, that will sharpen your mind. When you struggle for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-jihad, that will increase your aql. While when you stand alone on the side watching everything else happening and you don't give a hand, that decreases your aql. When you fulfill your promise, that will increase your aql. When you break your promise, that will decrease your aql. Birrul walidain. When you act gently and lovingly and caringly toward your parents, that will enhance your aql. When you act in a vicious way or in regardless way toward your parents, that will decrease your aql. Acting, when your actions are acts, not actions. Like you're acting to care, but you really don't care. Acting, pretending will decrease your aql. Being genuine increases your aql. Satr for ladies. When you dress in a decent way, the way Allah asks you to dress, that will increase your aql, while the opposite of that will decrease your aql. The satr is one word in Arabic. The opposite of that is tabarruj. And Allah says, وَلَا تَبَرَّجْنَا تَبَرُّجَ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ الْأُولَى. And don't show your beauty in a way that it's obviously, you are trying to show your beauty. That will decrease your aql. At-taqiyya, meaning when you act in a way to preserve even yourself, like physically, you don't want to harm yourself. You're not acting in a way that could cause you harm. That will enhance your aql. When you take risk Like, for example, you're driving angrily. You're driving too fast. Like, you're subjecting yourself to danger. That reduces your aql. When you spend appropriately, in proportionality, like you don't overspend, but you are not greedy at the same time. So when you spend in a correct way, that will enhance your aql. When you overspend, when you exaggerate, that decreases your aql. So I'm going to stop here, and there is a lot more. Ahl al-Bayt alayhim salam didn't leave one thing that we truly need to enhance our aql and take us closer to Allah that they didn't teach us. So I hope, inshallah, everybody take some time and read this or part of the book about aql and jahl. That will truly help you understand few things, including the fact that we have the best leaders that humanity ever had. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد
Muhammad. One more loud salawat to that.
اللهم صل على محمد.
You see, you want to turn it off? Turn it off, it's getting cold in there. Can you guys hear me if I use this mic? Okay. Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat. Sallallahu Muhammad. Muhammad wajal farajum. I was speaking to my friend's dad one day. Actually, I'm going to tell you the location. And so it was irrelevant until I realized what my topic was today. I was going to talk about Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam. Speak a bit louder. Okay, let me use this mic. Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat. Sallallahu Muhammad. So today I was going to speak about Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam and Imam Hussein. Ziyarat Waritha speaks of Hazrat Nuh, speaks of Hazrat Adam, and there's a link to all of them in Imam Hussein. Yesterday I talked a little bit about Hazrat Adam's link, right? And as I was getting prepared for today's Masaib, I looked up whose Masaib is generally read on the night of the third Muharram. And tonight I'm going to read about Hazrat John. And then I thought about an interesting time when I was on a boat with a friend of mine, and his father was talking to me. They're from an old Catholic family. And we were talking about, he had been in the service in the Marines, and he'd been living in Dubai. He's from Montana, Tennessee. He's a old school Southern, military family. And he told me, he said, I've been Catholic my whole life. I read the Bible. I would meet with other, Christians and Catholics, and we would talk about the Bible. And one day, a Mormon man came and said to me, he said, "You're a child of sin." And my friend's dad said he was mortified. He said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "You're a child of Canaan." Right? The child of Canaan were dark-skinned, and so you're a child of Canaan, so you're a child of sin. And he asked me, so what do you think about that? And I paused for a second, and I said, well, didn't Noah ask God to drown the children of Canaan? And so if that was the case, maybe at one point, right, that's not history that we know of, because yes, we're all children of Adam, but we're also children of Noah. And so the children of Canaan will have drowned before Noah. So either that person had their history wrong, but I know in Islam we're taught that there is no racism. In fact, the first crime committed was racism when Shaitan didn't want to bow against to Hazrat Adam. I'm of a superior color. I'm made of fire. You're made of clay. Right? It's racism. And so the link before, on the day that Hazrat Nuh's ship was almost complete, Jibreel had come down and brought him 5 nails. He'd been making everything from trees and carving everything from the earth. And when it was done, Hazrat Jibreel came and brought him 5 nails. And on the nails were inscribed Muhammad, Ali, Fatima, Hassan, and Hussein. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wajil farjim. And the nail that was inscribed Muhammad, he was instructed to nail to the front of his ship. Ali and Fatima too, the right and the left front, like his bows of the ship, and Hassan and Hussein together in the back of the ship. And Hazrat Nuh asked for to drown the world, to make the those who rejected Allah pay. And he knew that there was going to be some sort of rain, and he's building a boat. But I don't think he knew what he was in for, because 40 years later, it's still raining, and they're still, on the boat for 40 years, and then imagine being on a boat for 40 years, right? With the tightness and the animals maybe growing bigger and everything that's going on. Imagine being anywhere for 40 years, to be honest with you, right? And so on the day of Ashura, there was a light in the back of the ship, and it was coming from the nail that he put in the back of the ship. And Hazrat Jibreel came down from Jannat, and he told Hazrat Nuh the story of Karbala. And he started crying and crying, just as I said yesterday, as a mother loses their child, crying, beating their heads. Couldn't believe what he was hearing, the pain he was feeling. He asked for dua, and the water started to drain around Kaaba. There's a link between Hazrat Nuh and Imam Hussein. There's more to it, but in the time pressure, keeping the respect to time, I'm gonna leave you with that, right? But Hazrat John alayhi salam, I want to talk about him. See, we hear about Bibi Fidda and how she watched Bibi Zainab, Bibi Fatima, right? Hazrat John was bought as a slave from Abbas ibn Abu Muttalib by Hazrat Ali alayhi salam for 100 dinars. And then he was given to Abu Zar al-Ghafar, who was a companion of Prophet Muhammad, as a gift from Hazrat Ali alayhi salam. And so he stayed with this companion of the Prophet. Every time he would visit the Prophet, every time he would visit Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, this companion would come with him. He was very hardworking. He loved his master. He loved the Prophet, and he loved the house of the Prophet. So he would always be in their service, always running around. Anybody needed water, somebody needed something to sit on. He wouldn't say anything. He would not speak unless if he was spoken to first. The doctor was just talking about silence, right? He was a very wise man. We know he's a hafiz of the Quran, but he never spoke unless he was spoken to. Imagine how wise he must have been. So he was always running around helping everyone. He was always sweaty. Because he was all sweaty, he was always insecure about the smell coming from his body, right? He was working hard, and he always felt like he was embarrassed of his smell. So when he, assalamu alaikum. And so when he had when Abu Zar Ghafar had passed away, the Hazrat John was then moved into the house of Prophet Muhammad. After Prophet Muhammad, they moved into the house of Hazrat Ali, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. You see the service that he was in. When it came time for Karbala, he was he was about 70 years old, and again still never spoke unless spoken to. The night of Ashura, he spent a hafiz of Quran, spent reading the Quran and sharpening his sword. That's all he did. Read the Quran, sharpened his sword. Ashura came, and the ashab of Imam Hussein were dying. The men were dwindling, and the enemy looked like they were getting larger and larger. So Imam Hussein turned to Hazrat John. He said, my dear companion, you should go. This is the army of Yazid, and they have vendetta with me, not with you. You should go. And Hazrat John, he addressed the Imam, and he said, please forgive me. How could I leave you? If I've been with you in the time of happiness, how could I leave you in a time of sadness? How could I leave you in a time of peril? He said, you let everybody go and defend you. Why not me? And he smelled himself, and I said he's very insecure because he was always working hard, doing khidmat of the Ahlul Bayt. And he said, is it because I smell? Is it because my skin is a different color? Are you embarrassed that the army of his deeds is going to see me walk out there? And Imam Hussein embraced him, and he said, no. He said, Allah does not see color. Allah does not see color. Please, my dear friend. And on this, Imam Hussein, Ali Jawad tried to tell a poem. He said that I have companions like no one in history has ever had. My grandfather and my father didn't have companions like I had. He told these companions, and Hazrat John was one of those companions. A 70-year-old man walked onto the battlefield, and the face of the army turned sour when they saw the rage he came out with, the aggression he came out with, the knowledge, the piety he came out with, and he told them, he said, this is the family of Muhammad. This is the family of the man who you mentioned in Azan. And Imam Hussein watched. He watched as a 7-year-old man. Now think about this. He was raised in the house of Ali. Who do you think taught him the sword? He was raised in the house of Hassan. He was raised in the house of Hussein. And for the first time, this man had raised his sword, and the kind of battle he had fought with the enemies of Islam, right? And like I said, he was an old man. No water for 3 days. He got tired. The enemy overtook him. He fell. And Imam Hussein looked, and he didn't see the battle going on. And so he went out and he called for his friend John. He called for his friend John, and he saw him lying on the floor. And he embraced him, and he said, you are my great friend, oh John. You served my grandfather, you served my father, my brother, and here, let me serve you. And he asked Allah, he said, please make his face shine. Please make his face shine and make his body smell like the fragrance from Jannat. And to this day, my mother, every time she goes to Karbala, she comes back and she tells me, I smelled the grave of Hazrat John alayhi salam. I smelled the grave of Hazrat John alayhi salam. And as I got out of my car walking here, I thought to myself, if only I'd remembered this story on that day when my friend asked me, what does Islam say about black people? What does Islam say? Because this other man told me that we're cursed. See, in Islam, the only thing Allah sees is your love for Him, your submission to Him. The only thing Allah sees is your intelligence, your akhlaq, and how you perfect it. And what we do when we learn about Imam Hussein is we learn about the perfection of our intellect, the perfection of our character, the perfection of our love for Allah. Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat. Anybody who's parked in the parking lot over here, I think present company included, and we need to move our car to the other side of the parking lot. I was told that there is some towing going on. Also, a quick announcement. We're, inshallah, going to do a Qabristan Majlis at the Laverne Wadi Salam Cemetery tomorrow at 11 a.m. Anybody who could attend, it'd be greatly appreciated. So I'm going to go move my car. If anyone's parked on, closer to the masjid side of that lot, let's go move our cars right now. Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat.